हरे कृष्ण।
ऊपर करो ऐसे नहीं।
हरे कृष्णा। माताजी सब सामने आ जाइए आप लोग।
They all went back to sleep, is it? Hare Krishna. Jaya Rama Rama Kanja Yare Jaya Rama Rama Kanraviyare. Oi, oh. Slowly. Gopedanavallappa Kevarare. Gopedanavallappa Kevarare. Yashodanandana Vajjanarandana Yashodanandana Vajjanarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Jaya Rama Rama Kanraviyare. Jaya Rama Rama Kanraviyare. Gopedanavallappa Kevarare. Yasharanandana Vachachanarandana Yasharanandana Vachachanarandana Yamunateva Vandachare Yamunateva Vandachare Jayavara Madhava Kandaviyare Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Nittagariva, Nariva, Ariva, Nittagariva. The Tiger Premanandi, Shilapabhara Ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki, Gaura Premanandi. Can somebody take the harmonium away? Thank you. Om Akyantamandasya Gyananjalashalakaya Chakshunmalitam Jina Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manupistam Stapitam Yena Bhuttale Swayam Upakaramayam Dadati Swavadantikam Namam Vishnubhara Kurshavasa Bhuttale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Govani Pachayine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pasatari Satarine Vanchakapa Dvivasha Kripa Sinvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Go Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you very much for allowing me to visit you for a few days and share some insights and realizations. So since it is my first visit to this community, I will briefly introduce myself. So my name is Devaki Davidasi. I am originally from Germany, but I have not lived there for over 40 years. So I left Germany searching for a higher purpose of life, and I met the devotees in Australia, in Sydney, in 1985. And I immediately joined the ladies' ashram. I was 4 years in the ladies' ashram in Sydney, getting solid training. Then I was married for 10 years. And in that time, we pioneered the first more organized temple in the former Soviet Union. This was a very dynamic, adventurous time in pioneer work. So then 1999, my husband left Krishna consciousness and left me. So since then, I am in white, traveling the world. I'm basically living out of a suitcase. And I'm preaching for 5 months per year around India and Bangladesh. And the rest of the year, I'm going all around the world, sometimes Australia, New Zealand, sometimes South Africa, sometimes US and Canada, all around Europe. So I'm constantly on the move. And I have established an institute for spiritual culture. And I'm based in Mayapur. I spend 3 months per year there. And I am teaching all different courses which I developed, because over 24 years of preaching in Bangladesh, I received deeper insights in how our Vaishnava philosophy is meant to be lived. You really experience this in Bangladesh. It's a very special place. So yes, and now I'm putting these courses also in book form. I have published 5 books. I will tell you something at the end of the class, hoping that maybe some of you will feel inspired to get some copies, because they're all very relevant, practical topics which help us to actually develop our bhakti like that. Okay, so today, can somebody take this away? No need. It's standing in front of my nose there. Okay, thank you. So we don't have a regular Bhagavatam class today, but a topic-related class. And I would like to discuss with you the topic of prajalpa. Prajalpa, it will destroy this movement. This is a statement by Srila Prabhupada, which he made. And the way I understand it is not that he is predicting that prajalpa, it will happen, that it will destroy this movement, but it is more like a warning that if we don't stop engaging in talking prajalpa, this has the power of destroying this movement. Because we may have observed also that actually Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement is more threatened by the attacks from within. If we have outside attacks, they are not as destructive. They are actually usually uniting the devotees in preaching, right? But what is really destructive is the attacks from within. And they usually are based on prajalpa. Yes. And just some Shastric references to start off with. Nectar of Instruction, verse 2. Atyapet yasascha prajalpa niyamagraha. So there we have it, prajalpa. Rupa Goswami is warning us that our devotional service will be spoiled if we become too entangled in talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. So of course we always think that our mundane talk is necessary, but usually it's not. It's unnecessary. And then we also have Nectar of Instruction, verse 1, Vacho vegam manasakoda vegam, jiva vegam udo patsta vegam. So there Rupa Goswami also tells us that we have to control the urge to speak, or the urge of the tongue. Let's put it that way, right? Urges of the tongue. So and the tongue has 2 functions, to eat, to talk, and usually in both functions we easily overdo it. That we eat too much. Yes, I'm sure we all know that feeling. And that we just talk too much. So the tongue is the most ferocious sense organ. Very difficult to control. Tongue, belly, genitals in one line. So it all starts with the tongue, right? And it is interesting that when we eat too much, even if the food is very nutritious and wholesome, But if we eat too much, we will not be able to digest it. And then that leads to toxins in the body, and we get sick. And similar thing happens when we talk too much. It also develops toxins in the subtle body, right? Actually, the holy name carries an echo called Dvani. And we can sometimes have that experience. We just had a Kirtan Mela in the MVCC. So if we attend a very nice, empowering Kirtan of a great sadhu, we can still feel this nice feeling in the heart. So this is the holy name still working on our heart, even after the Kirtan finished. So, and what destroys the echo immediately is Prajalpa. Yes, immediately it switches on the mundane mind and this echo, boom, is destroyed. Right? Yeah, so we have to be very careful. And I'm sure we have all heard many times how Prajalpa is so detrimental. It's nothing new, right? But yet we don't realize how much of our daily talk falls into that category. Yeah, because often it is rather subtle, and these subtleties we easily overlook. And actually, Srila Prabhupada, he was very heavily chastising the devotees when they were engaging in Prajalpa. There are several nice incidences mentioned in Koma Prabhu's book, The Transcendental Adventure, Prabhupada's pastimes in Australia and New Zealand. Koma Prabhu is known for his cooking, right? So his writing is just as palatable as his cooking. I actually know him personally quite well because when I joined in Australia, I used to cut up the vegetables in the kitchen when he was cooking the Sunday feast. Yes. So in any case, he describes this incident with Upendra Prabhu, a disciple of Prabhupada, who was cooking lunch for Prabhupada, and some devotees came, that was in Melbourne in Australia, and some devotees came back from India. And in those days, of course, we didn't have social media and internet and all that. So all the news were given by talking. So there was all this talking going on in the kitchen. Oh, this devotee, that devotee, all the latest news. This devotee has done this, that devotee has done that. So Prabhupada was in the next room and heard it. And he got very angry. He called Upendra Prabhu in his room and he was saying, Upendra, what are you doing? Are you talking Prajalpa? And Upendra Prabhu said, is talking about other devotees Prajalpa, Srila Prabhupada? And Prabhupada said, yes. This devotee, that devotee, life is short, don't waste your time. When two devotees meet, they should discuss Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, service to the Lord, and not just talking this devotee, that devotee, you know. So, and he gave Upendra a 10-minute lecture, instructing him to stop talking Prajalpa. And then there was a similar incident, again with Upendra, cooking in the kitchen and talking Prajalpa with devotees. And again, Prabhupada called him in his room and chastised him. And that's when Prabhupada said, Prajalpa, it will destroy this movement. So it's from Koma Prabhu's book. Yes, and then there was also another funny little incident. That was in America, I believe. That was when the telex machine had just come out. So most of us don't even know what telex is, outdated technology. So this is the previous technology to fax, was telex. So, and as far as I understand, this was the first technology where we could write something on one end and it would come out instantly at the other end. So, and the devotees in one of the temples in America, they had purchased such telex machine. And they were very excited to show Prabhupada the latest technology. So, and Prabhupada, he was always interested, to see, because after all, it can be used in Krishna service. So then one devotee showed him and said, "Oh, Prabhupada, if every temple in the world has such a telex machine, then we can communicate all over the world." So what was Prabhupada's answer? "No, you will only talk Prajalpa all over the world." That was his answer. No need. So Prabhupada knew exactly, if we don't have too much modern technology, then the Prajalpa happens in one room. But with the modern technology, it goes all over the world. Yes. So internet, social media is really magnifying this tendency of Prajalpa, like anything. Believe it or not, I'm traveling all around the world without a mobile phone. I don't have one. And please don't get me one. Sometimes people think, oh, maybe Mataji is so poor, let us give her a mobile phone. No, thank you very much. I don't want it. I don't want to invite this into my life. And sometimes people ask, how can you get anything done without a phone? And then I'm usually saying, how do you get anything done with a phone? You will be constantly distracted and interrupted. No, I can't afford this in my life. I don't have a permanent assistant. I have to do everything myself, writing books, arranging the shipping, schedule, tickets. I'm busy. I don't have time to answer calls, no. So if people want to communicate with me, they have to send me an email. Of course, I have a laptop and I'm very much on email. And if they want to talk to me, they have to make an appointment over email with me. And then I talk to people over Skype. So that's my system. And it leaves my day much more peaceful, so I actually get things done, Yes. In regards to phone, I do want to share one more Prabhupada story. I think it was in Juhu, but I can't 100% remember. Prabhupada was just moving into his new quarters, and the devotees had put a phone line into Prabhupada's room. So it was first time that Prabhupada had his personal phone line. So, and what happens? First night, in the middle of the night, the phone rings. Oh, Hare Krishna Swamiji, I just wanted to say Hari Bol and see how you are, middle of the night. Somebody from America had forgotten that there is a time difference. So, and next morning, Prabhupada says, take the phone line out. I don't need this. He realized he will not get anything done, if he has his phone line. So I doubted very much that Prabhupada would walk around with a mobile phone in his pocket. I don't think so. And I'm also wondering, what would he say about Facebook and WhatsApp and all that, Of course, I know all these things have some little positive side, but I dare say the negative side is bigger than the positive side, definitely. Yes, so much as a little introduction. So in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's book, Bhaktiloka, there is one chapter, the 6 faults that destroy bhakti, which of course refers to Rupa Goswami's Adhyapayasascha. So, and there he comments on this tendency of talking prajalpa. And he gives quite a list of categories, what all falls into that topic of prajalpa. You know? And I would like to briefly go through this list with you, just to become a little more conscious. You know, what falls all into this category of prajalpa. Because this is always the first step of any kind of transformational work that we have to hear. You know, how detrimental certain patterns of behaviors or certain anarthas are. And only if we become clearly conscious, then we hopefully can develop a desire to do something about it. But as long as we don't hear, we are not even conscious, we don't even realize. That's why, you know, before becoming Krishna conscious, we first have to become conscious. Because so often we are so unconscious. Yes. So, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur starts by saying that today people are becoming more and more godless. And therefore their talk is also godless. And godless talk is prajalpa, actually. So any kind of talk which is not related to Krishna or devotional service can be classified as prajalpa. And interestingly, we will discover that most types of prajalpa come from envy. Yes, they come from envy. And that is another reason why prajalpa is so contaminating. So it's not only the mundane content which is contaminating, but also because it is envious talk. And the amazing thing is that consciousness travels on sound vibration. So if a person is in an envious mood and spreads some envious talk, then this envy travels on the sound vibration coming out of his mouth, and it contaminates everybody. Yeah. So that's another reason why this prajalpa is so detrimental. So the first category Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving is useless talk. And he puts into that category like any kind of novels and stories which are not really related to Krishna and his associates. But he also includes the newspaper. Of course, today nobody is reading the newspaper anymore because we got it all on the internet, on the phone. No need for the paper. But yeah, if we get too absorbed in studying up on all the different current affairs and news and wars and elections and this and that, what is all happening in the world, this is also prajalpa. And to illustrate this, I want to share a little incident with Prabhupada again. Prabhupada was flying on the plane with a group of his disciples, and on the planes they used to distribute all different newspapers and magazines. Now they're not doing that anymore either, because again it's all on internet, no need. So, but in those days it was like that, and the devotees were reading the Time magazine. which is known to be a very good and socially critical magazine. So when Prabhupada saw the devotees reading the Time magazine, he said, "Oh, let me have a look at this magazine." And he was flicking through the pages, and then he gave it back to the devotees and said, "Actually, devotees should not read this." And then he made a very profound statement. He was saying, it makes this world look so real. It makes this world look so real. And that's exactly what it does. Because actually, we may know that there are two kinds of realities, right? There's the very flickering, temporary reality of this material world, which Prabhupada called a nonsensical stage performance. That's a very, genius word combination. Prabhupada always has a very amazing way of combining words and expressing things. So he was saying life in the material world is a nonsensical stage performance, a crazy circus. And at the moment of death, the curtain closes, show is over, all finished. So, but then there is eternal reality of my relationship with Krishna. That's the only thing we're allowed to keep at the moment of death, right? Yes, that is eternal. So, and actually Krishna consciousness is meant to transform our sense of reality. Because in our conditioned life, we think, this nonsensical stage performance is reality. And Krishna, far away, we don't think that's reality. Sometimes when I present some seminars, people say, "Oh, Mataji, but in the real world," and I'm immediately stopping them, "Hang on, what do you think? What's the real world for you? Is it the crazy circus here, where everything will finish at the moment of death? Or are you talking about the real world being the spiritual world and my relationship with Krishna? That's the real world." Yes. So Krishna consciousness is meant to transform our sense of reality. That as we seriously practice Krishna consciousness, this material world becomes more and more just like a crazy circus where we somehow have to function and play the game. But the real world is my relationship with Krishna, Goloka Vrindavan. That's where I really want to be established. So, and if we get too much absorbed in studying up on the world news, that deepens our understanding of that being the real world. That's why Prabhupada said, it makes this world look so real, right? Yes, very profound and deep. And that's exactly what it does. So of course, depending on what service we have, or if we are working in an office or something, or if we are a leader in a community, we may have to know a little bit what's going on in the world, right? But usually if we just read the headlines of a news website, we know enough. It doesn't take longer than 10 minutes or something. So no need to spend hours there reading up and looking on this website and that website. No need. It just makes this world look so real, Because in the ultimate sense, at the moment of death, is this important? Which president is elected in America or which war is going on? No, it has no significance whatsoever. See? Yeah, so that's Bhaktivinoda Thakur's first category, right? So then the next one is arguments. When we are quarrelsome, we quarrel and argue. Very often this happens in family life. You know, we can ruin our home family relationships just by arguing, quarreling. And why do we do this? Envy is behind it. We want to establish that we know better, that we are superior. We want to put other people down, pointing out that it's all wrong what they are saying or doing. You know, so all these arguments, it's usually connected with a false ego. It's false ego battles. Who is right, who is wrong, and, you know. Yes, and it creates, you know, so much negativity in our relationships and tensions and misunderstandings and conflicts and all that, you know. Especially in married life. I always tell the ladies, you know, if your husband carries on about something, don't answer back. Let him go on. How long can he go on? You know, it's not much fun quarreling by yourself. If the other person doesn't answer, how long will you go on? You know, it's like a thunderstorm. When there's a thunderstorm and the thunder is rumbling, we also don't fight against the thunder. We know it's just a question of time until it's finished, right? And often the men say to me, I'm doing the same thing when my wife carries on, you know. I just don't answer. Let her carry on, you know. Yes. Yeah, so this argument should be avoided. You know, devotees should not take part in this. And it requires that we control the demands of the false ego. You know, that we don't want to show that we know better and we have the last answer and you know, the last word and all this. You know. The next category is gossip. Talking about others without reason and discussing their character. Of course, if we discuss good character traits and their nice activities, that's not prajalpa, that's uplifting. You know, if we glorify devotees and we glorify their qualities. But no, usually we like to talk about their bad qualities. Yes, and that is prajalpa. And again, why do we do this? Because of envy. We like to talk badly about others in order to reduce their importance, their position. In other words, indirectly we say, I don't have this problem, you know, but they have it, so I am better. Yes, that's behind it, you know. So, yeah, especially in bigger communities, there often is so much gossip going on, what this person is doing and that person, and it goes in circles, and it's, yeah, creates a lot of tension, misunderstandings, conflicts, negativity. See, in my life, I usually never stay longer than 1 week in each temple, each community. And this is perfect, because I see everybody as pure sadhu. I don't stay long enough to hear all kinds of criticism and gossip and this and that. And I don't get involved in it. But during pandemic, I was stuck in Europe. So there the restrictions were not as strict as here in India. I was still moving around, traveling, but slower. Not every week in a different place, but 4 or 5 weeks in one place. And I immediately realized, when you stay longer than 1 week, you hear all this gossip, all this criticism, you may even become victim yourself of it. Oh my God, you know, so I thought, I was so glad when pandemic was over and I could again move, you know. Yeah, so we have to be very careful. Also, another point I'd like to make, you know, maybe you have also noticed how difficult it is for people to keep things confidential, especially when we have a counselor and when we reveal our heart to a counselor. That person really has to keep things confidential and not tell other people. And this is difficult to find, that people keep things confidential, and that's why devotees are often afraid to reveal their heart and share their challenges and difficulties, because they're afraid the person will blabber around the community. So I was trying to work out, why is this, that people cannot keep things confidential? And I realized it is connected with a false ego, because we want to show off that we know something which others don't know, right? And we say, oh, you know what? Oh, you don't know? Really? You don't know? Well, I know. And I'll be the special person who tells you. But don't tell anybody, it's confidential. And then that person does the same. Oh, really? You don't know? Well, she told me, and she didn't tell you. Well, I'm going to tell you. But make sure you don't tell anybody, it's confidential, you know. And like that, we use, you know, confidential things that people share with us. We use it to show off. So next time you share something that somebody else told you, you look in your heart and you detect the false ego working on you, pushing you, you know, trying to be special, and you know, yeah, it's all very subtle. You know. So then the next category is debating. Debate. So we can say debate is maybe a more serious and intense way of arguing, right? And debating definitely has its roots in false ego and envy, because in debates, people don't want to humbly inquire and find out the truth, but they just want to get their point across. And they often don't even listen what the other person is saying, right? Yes. And yeah, very detrimental. It's going back and forwards, back and forwards. Often there's no end to it. You know, no matter what you say, the other person has their arguments against it. And yeah, useless. And actually, very often, these debates take place over the internet. You may have found yourself in the situation where one person says something about you or a situation, and several other people read it, and then you feel, well, I have to comment, I have to say something, otherwise people think this is true. So then you make your comment trying to put things in a right balance there. So what does the other person do? Distort it all, twist it around, make a weapon out of it, boom, shoot it back at you. So then again, oh, well, what to do? If I'm just quiet, you know, then everybody thinks this is the fact. So again, all right, let me say something. And it goes on and on and on. Have you ever been in that situation? Yes. There's no end to it, because no matter what you say, the other people will continue. So better not to respond. Simply Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, finished. Let them say what they want to say. Because if we engage in this, we can feel so much contamination in our hearts, We have all this anger and frustration, and the topic goes around in circles in our head, and we can't drop it. We always continue thinking about it. It disturbs our japa. We can't even concentrate anymore. So much contamination of the heart coming through the false ego. Yeah. So better not to respond, not to take part in these debates. And actually during pandemic, at least in Europe, I don't know what was happening here in India, but in Europe, there was all this debating going on. Vaccination, yes or no? Oh my God, there was 2 camps, in each community. And everybody thought they have to save the world, and they are right, and they know what's best. And there was so much arguing and debating over this. Many communities split in half over this vaccination topic. And the relationships were ruined. Even a year after the pandemic, still they hadn't fixed their relationships. And that's when I realized, oh my God, Prabhupada is just so right when he says, Prajalpa, it will destroy this movement. Yes. And now, unfortunately, a similar thing is going on over the war in Ukraine. Before the war started, I spent a lot of time in Ukraine. I was very involved there for over 20 years. So now Russian and Ukrainian devotees argue, over the war, who is behind it and this and that. No need. On the absolute platform, what importance does it have, the war? At the moment of death, no significance. And it's outside of our circle of influence. Who cares what we think? We can't change anything. And ultimately we know Krishna's in control, not Putin or anybody else, but it's Krishna being in control. So devotees don't get into these kind of discussions because it simply creates so much negativity and offenses and hurt feelings and spoils the relationships and. So the next category is fault finding. Finding faults. Oh, I think we're all pretty good at that. And again, what's behind it? Envy. We try and reduce a person's position and importance by pointing out their faults. So now, interestingly, our previous Acharya Sridhar Swami, he made this statement. He said, whether it is true or not, talking about faults of a Vaishnava means to blaspheme him, even if it is true. And that is a point which we often miss. We think the fact that a person has that fault justifies us to talk about it. We think, well, freedom of speech. This is modern India. Can't I say the truth? What's wrong with that? Right? Yes. But no, just the fact that we want to express it, that this person has a fault, means envy is behind it. And let us look at a very simple example of our everyday life in ISKCON temples. Let's say a visiting preacher comes and leads a kirtan, and then our friend says, oh, that was a nice kirtan, wasn't it? And then we say, yeah, it was all right, but, the big but, I didn't like the melody. and his Madanga playing needs a bit of improvement. You know? So we find something just to reduce his importance. In other words, we say, if I had led the kirtan, I know so many nicer melodies, and my Madanga playing is better anyway. That's actually what we are saying indirectly, you know. Yeah, so, and even if it is true that the melody was a little unusual, or his Madanga playing needs improvement, so even if it is true, still, just the fact that we want to express this, if we look in our hearts, we will detect envy, if we are a little introspective and honest. Yes. Very subtle, you know. We can all justify it by thinking, well, I'm just sharing my kirtan experience with my friend. What's wrong with that? You know? But just the fact that we pick the negative and we express that, it shows envy. Yeah. We do these things quite commonly, you know, and we don't even realize. We don't realize because it's so subtle. Yeah, so then the next category is speaking falsehoods, meaning creating fake news, rumors. Again, what's behind it? Envy, just to create some, you know, disadvantage for that person, spoil his reputation, and, you know. I mean, out in the material world, it seems like it's some people, it's full-time engagement just to create fake news and put fake videos on the internet. And oh my God, you know, what a perverted way of getting some satisfaction, you know. My God. So very easily these things also happen in our communities, that we create some rumors about somebody just to somehow reduce their importance and damage their reputation, and so very detrimental, creates conflicts, misunderstandings, and you know. So next one is to blaspheme devotees. So we already mentioned, you know, fault finding, even if it is true, that is one form of blasphemy. So there's probably so many other forms also. So yes, to blaspheme devotees is also Pajalpa. And the last one Prabhupada is giving is worldly talk, meaning, you know, when we get very absorbed in discussing some categories of knowledge, when we get a kick out of getting into a higher mathematics or physics or whatever, just to show our knowledge and expertise, you know, so as Pajalpa. Of course, some categories of knowledge, archaeology, astrology, or biology, that can be used in preaching and connection with Krishna and. So, but if we don't connect things with Krishna and preaching, and we're just for the sake of the knowledge we discuss, you know, this is also Pajalpa. No need. What's the use? You know? Yeah, so these are the categories that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving. So just before we close and see if there's some questions, I do want to share one important rule of Vaishnava etiquette, which is often not observed. So, when there is some disagreement, some conflict on higher levels, if we are on the junior level, we should not discuss, we should not take sides, we should not pass judgments, because we don't know what is really taking place on higher levels. And very easily we create offenses because we don't have the full picture. So we should not get involved and not talk about it. It's beyond our circle of influence. It doesn't matter what we think. It will not make any difference, right? So this is in a community, if there's some disagreements amongst the leaders, or this is for whole ISKCON, you know, because ISKCON, my God, there's always something going on, right? Yes, there's always some, disagreement, some scandals going on, you know. So, I mean, ISKCON, who is ISKCON? It's all of us. We are all bringing all kinds of things into ISKCON. So there's always something happening. No need for us to get involved and discuss and read up. And no, it's none of our business. What difference does it make? If we get involved, very easily it destroys our faith and the process of devotional service. Yes. It destroys our faith in Prabhupada, in Krishna, in the holy name, in process of bhakti. Better not to get involved. If something is really important for us to know, it will be announced by the GBCs. No problem, you know? But if we get all into the discussions and gossiping, talking, it's so much against the etiquette. We damage our spiritual life and other devotees' spiritual lives. So, of course, if we see something very alarming and dangerous going on senior level, some abuse or something, so then the etiquette is that we report it to that person's authorities. Yeah, that is our duty. But then once we have reported it, we don't take it further. Then let them take care of it. But it's our duty to report it. And I mean, over the 40 years, I've reported quite a few things. But then I leave it up to them. I don't continue, they're not doing anything, and No, that's up to them then. We have done our duty, we reported it, and it's their responsibility to take it further. Yeah, so I simply wanted to share that. So now one more thing before we open up for questions. I do want to quickly show you the books I have published, because they are all very relevant and important topics. I distributed a lot of books in the NVCC. So now actually the situation is like this. I only have these 5 samples left. And if anybody wants some books, I take orders. I put the name, phone number down, and you pay me up front, and then within 10 days I will send more books here. The books are in Mayapur, so no problem, I can send them down, and then everybody gets the books they ordered. So, Spiritual Culture, Krishna's Divine System. This is all about the man-woman natures, mentalities, qualities, that they're very different. They are not equal. Man, woman are not equal. The equality is on the level of the soul. But on the level of the body, very, very different. Because they're meant to play different roles. Let's be clear on this. Yes. So when you read this book, you will realize how this man-woman equality propaganda now puts the whole human society upside down and creates so many social problems. So this is a must for every lady who wants to have harmonious relationships with men in her life. Yes. And it is also very insightful for the brahmacharis too. It's helpful for married life, but also the men are the preachers, and they have to understand that this man-woman equality is not what we are promoting. And they have to know how to nicely present it. So many temples around the world, they use this book for brahmachari and bhakta training, even though the whole book is about women. But people have to know what role we women play, because we women have a very powerful Shakti. And Bhagavatam says we should use that Shakti to empower the men and not to compete with the men. But because of the man-woman equality, the women now compete with the men, and that weakens the men. That's why in Kali Yuga, the men become more and more weak and irresponsible, because we women don't want to empower them anymore, but we want to empower ourselves. But the men need that energy to be motivated and empowered. So it's all quite interesting, all very subtle, and all based on Prabhupada. No Western psychology and all this. Everything is based completely on Prabhupada. Because you see, everything is in the Bhagavatam. But people often just read over it and they don't deeply understand it, Yes. I mean, I realized all these things over 25 years of serving in Bangladesh. That's where my whole worldview got transformed and put upside down. So then we have sheltering relationships. This book is all about the importance of having a counselor and eventually becoming a counselor to others. So here, Pune, you may have that counselor system or so, but very often we accept this in a very external way as a formality. But deep in our heart, we are not taking shelter. So when you read this book, God, there's so much noise from the kitchen. Can't we close a door there or something? I'm being ear-bashed here with all this noise thing. Yes. So when you read this book, you will be convinced that without having a mentor, we cannot make advancement. Yes. Classic example is Bharat Maharaj. He was on the level of Baba, but his problem was he didn't have a counselor. He was all alone in the forest, got attached to the deer. He didn't have a counselor who said, hey, it's enough now with the deer. Get back to your sadhana. He didn't have that person. So even on the level of Baba, if we don't have such sheltering relationships, we lead a risky life. Yes. And there's many other things. Topic of envy, culture of respect, culture of correcting others, so many important things. Then we have the false ego, our constant companion and troublemaker. I think the title speaks for itself. False ego, very subtle. We can easily feed and boost the false ego instead of subduing and dissolving it. And Krishna consciousness offers a lot of opportunities for it. So we have to be very careful. Or when we get offended, how often does that happen? What is it? It's false ego crying for justice. Even married life can be the battlefield of false egos. Who is right, who is wrong, And there's a whole chapter on chanting the holy name, because I do conduct holy name retreats all around the world. So there's a summary of a holy name retreat there. How to actually get on deeper levels of chanting so that it will dissolve our false ego and not feed and boost it. And then we have entering the Grihastha ashram. This is a handbook for matchmaking. Because here in India, I feel we need a bit of help with this. Yes, I meet so many unhappy, mismatched couples from Indian background when I visit the US, Canada. There's so many Indian devotees everywhere. Because the parents simply look at caste and money. And they don't look at any other levels of compatibility. And then they give only the the boy and the girl 2 times half an hour to meet, and they don't even get a chance to talk about things. So this book has a list of over 200 topics which the boy and the girl should discuss with a cool head in the presence of the parents or counselor or matchmaker, just to see, are we on the same page? You know, because the girl, the wife, signs the contract of following him in his mood, but she has to know what she is following here, right? Yes, yes. So very important, we have to fine-tune our matchmaking capacities, you know, because today people don't have that commitment to stay with a person if they can't connect and if the whole thing is simply suffering. But in former times, people were sticking with the marriage, even if it was suffering from day one, but they would not get divorced. But now times have changed. And even here in India, you know, in our ISKCON communities, divorce is going up. And very often this is connected with bad matchmaking. So let's educate ourselves. And this list of 200 topics is not my list. I use the list from Bhaktivedanta Manor in London, and that has a huge Indian congregation. So this list is for Indian people. It's not a German list. It's an Indian list. Yes, very suitable for you here in Pune. Yeah, so it's a good book to read for young people who are not married yet, but planning to change ashrams, for the parents, for the matchmakers, the counselors, very important. So, and last but not least, family life as an ashram, secrets of success. How to actually create this culture of bhakti in our home. Many married devotees' home life we cannot call an ashram because it's not a place suitable for cultivating pure devotional service. So how to do it in a very practical way? Again, all based on Prabhupada. He says it all, you know, but it takes a while for us to get the point. So there's so many important topics, all relevant for our practical life. And there is a whole chapter about physical intimacy in marriage. How to live this principle of no illicit sex life in marriage. Nobody talks about it, especially here in India, and people are at a loss how to make it all work. I did some research, and I came across interesting episodes with Prabhupada, where he gives instructions which hardly anybody knows. And that adds a different perspective to the whole topic. So I hope this book will make our family life more Krishna conscious and emotionally balanced and healthy. So if any of you would like to get some books, these last 3 books, they're 350 rupees each, and the first 2 are 300 each. As I mentioned in the beginning, if you want any, you come forward. I have a list here. We put down your name. You can pay cash or with QR code. And then in about 10 days, the boxes will get here. And then one responsible person will notify you and make sure that everybody gets the books they paid for. Okay? So now, 9:12. What do? Shall we finish or shall we take some questions about the Prajalpa? Some questions. Okay, any questions about the topic of Prajalpa? No? No question? No question? Well, if there's no question, then what to do? Other questions? Okay, other questions about the books or any other topic?
Hare Krishna. This is general. As I heard, you did a lot of preaching in Bangladesh and all. I think 6 months back or 3 months back, some news was there
Anyway, let's not get into that topic.
No, I'm not getting into it. I
What?
just wanted to, explore this. As ISKCON is into making brahmacharis or this devotees and all.
So what's your question?
My question is, sannyasi, brahmachari, this ISKCON is making devotees and all only and not making any Kshatriyas. So ISKCON movement is for 10,000 years.
Yes.
And if certain problems like this in Bangladesh comes, then how ISKCON is trying to sort
Well,
out?
ISKCON will still go on, and in 2 weeks I'm visiting Bangladesh. I'm going there every year. So the preaching is flourishing there. We have hundreds of brahmacharis, so many temples. So all right, there's some little disturbance. It's everywhere in the world, but the preaching is flourishing. No problem. I will go in 3 weeks to Bangladesh. Not a problem.
No problem.
No.
You look beyond 100 years, 200 years.
So I don't know, 100 years, 200 years, I hopefully will not be around anymore. See, let's be clear. The material world will always be a place of disturbances and quarrels and conflict. I mean, you're talking about Bangladesh. Why don't you ask about Ukraine? Ukraine was one of the most dynamic communities, and everything is flattened. That's much worse than what's happening in Bangladesh. Yes, Ukraine, my God. The devotees are spread all over the world. I know so many of them. I've been involved there for 25 years. That's much bigger problem. But still, they preach. Oh, yes. So many leave, but many stay. They go on book distribution, even though the bombs are raining. They do food for life. Yes, they're heroes. Yes. Last year I met one family from Ukraine in Mayapur, and I thought they escaped from the war to stay in Mayapur. And they said, no, we are going back. We have our Namata programs and the preaching is increasing. People take more shelter of Krishna consciousness. Sunday feast programs go on, everything, even though the whole country is destroyed almost. Yes. So preaching will go on. Yes. Maybe sometimes it gets more difficult here or there or what. But I feel safer in Bangladesh than in Germany. Yeah. In Germany, almost every week, there's some stabbing, shooting, this happening, on the public transport, in the shopping malls, in the open street, on the schools. My God, every week something is happening, But Bangladesh, I'm usually well protected. Okay, do we have any other question? Yes, please.
Thank you for such a nice insight on Prajalpa. It's almost like so many different venues where we are doing Prajalpa. So I want to ask, as you are talking during the lecture about it is main cause is about envy, then the Prajalpa comes. But normally when we hear the envy doesn't go so fast. It's so deep rooted. So it is like an urge. It is Prajalpa is not I just keep shut mouth. It just comes out. So please you can share your experience about how it is just curbing the thing, because we know that we should not do this, we should not do that, but that.
Well, the topic of envy, I think, is on the schedule tomorrow. So let's park it for tomorrow. Envy, the main obstruction within relationships. That's what we discuss tomorrow morning. So it fits nicely together. Today, Prajalpa, tomorrow, the root cause of the Prajalpa, the envy. Okay. Any last thing?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Mataji. Thank you very much for the lecture. I only just wanted to know a little thing. This you travel a lot, so this inconveniences of traveling is there. This diet and medicine and so many things, bookings and all. How do you manage to do it?
By not having a phone.
Not having a.
That's how I manage. Not having a phone which always distracts and interrupts me.
Acha, acha.
But I mean, here, usually in every place I'm visiting, people take care of my diet, and the rest I'm managing myself.
Okay.
Just using every single minute in a meaningful way.
Okay. So
Then you can get quite a lot done. I'm not on social media and all this stuff, So I'm using every minute in a meaningful way.
So
Trying to.
So Krishna arranges, helps.
Well, Krishna's arranging, but Maya is also arranging, so it depends on our desire. Okay, so let us leave it at that. So if anybody wants to get some books, please come up right now and we'll work it out. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki, Gaura Premanandi.
So let us thank His Harvest Devaki Mataji for giving such an amazing lecture on Prajalpa, and we look forward for tomorrow and next day after tomorrow, same time, same here, same place. So let us thank her Mataji by chanting one time Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna Devaki Mataji ki jai.